All right, it's 6 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order of the meeting of the Finance Committee. We just have one item on the agenda, the reason we're here, which is to review the 2022 budget. Thank you to the department heads all for coming and also joining us tonight to help with any questions and anything our department heads in the audience, the mayor, and also City Administrator Shambo. We can kick this off kind of with some high-level discussion or questions. If anyone has questions on the 2022 budget highlights, that would be in your packet, page 2 to 3. If we want to just start with any questions on that. No? Okay. Then we can just kind of jump in and go maybe department by department kind of within the packet. And if any aldermen have questions for specific items or within the packet, we can kind of address them then. Starting off will be the Common Council budget, page 16. Does anyone have questions or concerns they want to discuss? Alderman Allen?
Yeah, for achievements in 2021, I guess I'm having problems with the last item in the achievements. Obtained an appropriate amount of net new construction and tax levy increase. That's not really an achievement, that's just a function of the environment, correct?
Is that?
I'd like to remove that line.
Jay, do you have any?
Yeah, so what I was attempting to reflect in that achievement is that we did utilize the net new construction. I don't know if this group remembers the 5-year look back possibility of net new construction. So we do have some availability to look back for and utilize net new construction in future years. Once those, so each year a new drops off, new year drops off, and we're actually at a point where some might drop off in 2023 for 2023's budget, and we've been able to use some net new construction annually, but not the fullest extent of the look back, and the main reason for that is to maintain the expenditure restraint formula. So those two formulas, and we've talked about this in the past, Tracy, this might be a little new for you as an incoming alderman and a good refresher for everybody else, but the levy limit calculation and the expenditure restraint calculation sometimes are at odds with each other. And so as we look to utilize as much look back or levy limit availability based on net new construction and previous year's net new construction, we have to balance that against the expenditure restraint formula. In order to retain the expenditure restraint formula, we can't use as much levy limit amount, and so that's what that was attempting to do, because we did utilize a fair amount of net new construction last year,
right? And
then we did have a tax levy increase. So it was, whether it's an achievement that it was a levy increase, I don't disagree with your comment that it could be removed. If the consensus of the council desires that achievement to be removed, I have no problem removing it.
What page is that on?
It's page 2 of the Common Council, but
16 of the digital.
Is it Common Council?
Oh yeah, that would be. If you
under the goals.
fit to.
Where I don't have it online. Go to page 16. Mission. Okay, keep going. Oh, here we go. Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's the Is that a motion, Mark, to remove that then?
yeah, I'd move to remove that line from our achievements.
Do we have a second? All right, that will fail. We will keep moving on then. Yes, Alderman Allen.
I'd like to remove maintain current tax rate, no rate increase as a goal for 2022, as that that's simply an outcome that either does or doesn't come based on the budget. It shouldn't be a goal.
Do we have a second?
Sorry, I'm not following the lot. I'm
Same-
not following.
same.
Goals for 2022.
No, I'm not following I'm not following Alderman Allen where you're coming from.
Why is a tax rate a goal? It's simply an outcome of whatever budget we have will have a consequence of a tax rate.
There's nothing wrong with having a goal of keeping it flat.
Do we have a second to remove that motion? Or, no?
Sorry.
Thank you. All right, Alderman Allen.
Like to make a motion to add plan for fire department changes as a goal for 2022.
Do we have a second?
I could second that, yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second on that. Any discussion?
Do you want to be more specific than just fire department changes? Because that could mean
Well,
going backwards too. I mean,
we don't know what the scope of those will be, but we do have a pretty good idea that the outcome of the study is going to be some changes, whether it's increases, decreases, reallotments, and so on. That's
do you want to
Gonna
say to implement? A goal is to implement elements of the studies?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can craft something if you want to come back. I'll see if I can craft a goal and wordsmith something. But I mean, we know that it's coming. It's going to be a big chunk of our activity over the next year. I think the report's due to be presented at the next council meeting in a week.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be on the agenda for the 18th of October, but hopefully soon after that. I don't have any budget in this 2022 budget for the implementation of the fire analysis, but I think adding a goal under specifically this budget, which is the Common Council budget, to review and study or review and prepare for something like that of the 2022 for the fire analysis, that I think that's, I agree with, I think the sense or direction that you guys are heading on this one, adding that as a goal.
How about plan for implementing fire department changes from the study? That
And instead of changes, I might recommend recommendations or fire department analysis results or something like that, but I don't know,
analysis recommendations.
I just think it's really hard to, without having discussed what's happening. I mean, I think that's a lot of foresight to be discussed honestly. So I guess, yes, to everyone's point, we know it's coming. We are going to discuss it. Changes will be more than likely happening on some level. We just don't know what they are. If you want to allude to it in a goal of somehow, but it doesn't seem very measurable or very precise right now to me, considering we haven't really heard the discussion or recommendations yet, but it's up to everyone else.
Can I, for the goal, I would say plan for implementing fire department analysis recommendations. It's specific enough, given that we don't have those recommendations.
And a lot of these things are written a little bit vaguely intentionally, so yeah, it doesn't seem out of line to me.
Can we make that update, Jay? Do we need to vote?
And so all of these votes, I guess, if you want to do them by consensus, it's your meeting. So if you want to do them by consensus, I'm fine with that. If you want to take formal motions on them, I'm fine with that. I think you're trying to provide feedback to
Perfect.
Carrie and myself and the department head team for the budgets.
Okay. So that guidance then, is that enough for you
Yep,
to
I got
kind
it.
of make some adjustments there? Perfect. All right. Do we have more questions or comments on the Common Council section? All right, then we can move on to the mayoral section, page 20. Alderman Allen?
Yeah, I had a question on the WRS expenditure in the mayor's budget. And this will be for Michelle. What is the threshold for WRS? Why, I mean, basically, everybody's in WRS at some level except for the Common Council.
Depends on the hours of work is generally what it is, but I also know that there was something, the mayor's been in it for like since before I was here, over 10 years. The previous mayor was in it. There was something that happened in the state of Wisconsin that mayors were then included. I don't have that information, but I can provide it before you guys vote on the next meeting. So I will get that information to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions on the mayoral budget portion? All right, moving on. Page 25 would be the city attorney expenditures and budget. Concerns, comments? All right. We have the city administration, page 28. We have the city clerk, page 34.
Megan, can we back up a second?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I missed this one on my notes. So looking at the mayor's budget.
Mayor?
And I gotta find it on page 8, which is actually page, geez. Just a second, I'm all confused here now. I had a total budget went from 7820 to 15846. What was I looking at here? My notes.
So, can I jump in, Megan?
You know what
Yeah,
I'm
please.
talking about, Jay?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So you have to compare and this trips up people annually. Alderman Kaler, don't feel bad about comparing the different line items. So you have to look at the general fund line item 8690 to the budget 2021 line item 7820. The 2022 1586
Yep.
is allocated, so it's the sum of general fund, water, sewer, and communications. The mayor's allocated across those funds. So the real comparison is general fund 8690 for 2022
Gotcha.
and budget 2021.
So it goes up $800, right? From 7820 to
Yep.
8690.
Yep, and that's a reflection of the annual report.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Randy?
Yeah, and I'm assuming common council's the same way.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions on mayoral? All right. I think we were on city clerk budget on page 34. All right. We have HR on page 42. Questions? No? The elections budget, page 51. All right. The finance budget is on page 56. The city assessor is page 66. Questions on that?
Can we go back to the HR?
Sure. HR page, packet page 42.
Yeah, it says
Yep.
goals for 2022, implement salary grade list and compensation for non-union employees. Is that the new compensation plan? Okay, that's just worded kind of weird. I couldn't quite understand that. All right. And there's no way to get more specific about this at this time.
Open to suggestions or recommendations.
Is there some way we can make a commitment right now to do whatever the the study comes up with?
Yeah, the money's set aside.
It was a minimum commitment, yeah. Right.
Right.
But they may come back with a lot more than that. I'm not sure how you budget for
Yeah,
that.
but how do you budget for what you don't know? We budgeted for what we're pretty sure of, and
Sure.
we'll have to figure it out from there.
So it's a lot more than that. There's not much we can do, I guess, huh?
Yeah, well, so I think the words here were head nod towards the staff plan, so that's salary grade list and compensation for non-union employees. Implement, in my opinion, is a strong word. That means we're doing it. So if salary grade list is confusing because it is, then we could say implement compensation plan for non-union employees, period.
I'm not concerned with the confusion.
Okay.
I'm concerned with implementing a higher amount if that's what comes through. And making a commitment to do that, which I know is hard to do in a budget, but there's no way to word it so that might be included.
Could say implement recommendations, implement compensation plan from consultant recommendations for non-union employees, if that's helpful. I don't feel strongly. I think you
covered it. The problem is if you say that and we decide, we've seen theirs, we've seen Michelle's, whatever, and we decide that we're going to go at 95% or whatever, now you're committing to 100%. If they say, hey, everybody gets $50,000 raise, I'm not committing to that, so.
Well, but that's not.
I have a real problem
that's
committing
not,
to a number. We have no idea.
Randy, that's ridiculous, though. You think this
What you're
person's
saying
going to
is
come back with
You're trying to commit to an unknown number. I'm not going to commit to a number that's not set.
Well, we had the opportunity to commit to a number that was set
And
a
we
month
did.
ago.
And we did.
I don't think
so
we
you're
did.
wrong. We did commit
Okay.
to that number.
You're right. Point
So,
taken. Point taken.
We're not going to commit to a number. We have no idea what it is. We committed to the number that was recommended.
We knew this was coming, didn't we? Yeah. Anyways, move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be a discussion at the once the comp plan comes back. That's where I would think would be a better time than trying to predict.
Sure.
That's just my opinion.
Sure.
So, all right. Any other questions on HR compensation? No. All right. With that, we were on elections budget, was page 51. Any questions on the election budgets pages? If not, we have the finance budget on page 56. Any questions? We have the city assessor budget is in page 66. Questions? We have the building inspection department, page 73 budget. Questions or comments on that? We have the IT budget, page 80. Questions or concerns with that?
This,
Alderman Allen?
yeah, this is based on filling our vacant IT director and having both an IT director and an IT support technician.
Yes, the 2022 budget proposal at this time is based on that. We do have Kurt Lulich from the police department serving as an interim director in a dual role at this time, and having some conversations with Washington County about the possibility of working together more collaboratively with them, and the possibility of some structure change as well. So I would prefer, recommendation is to budget this way, as is, status quo for both budgets, if you will, the two positions here and the two positions within PD, and then I'll come back to you as we know more regarding a solid recommendation for that department moving forward. And Kurt's been doing a great job as interim director. It's a lot. It's not something that he can do forever with existing staffing, but it is, we're getting by at this time.
Would that final recommendation, Jay, come in the next few months, weeks?
Yeah, I anticipate it would come within the next few months. Whether it's tied to the salary study or we wait that out, I guess is probably to be determined, but at least coming forward with the filling of we need a technician role for sure within our organization to make the two people not be totally underwater that are treading right now.
We want to add a goal to fix the guest Wi-Fi. I think that's been an issue. I think that's been an issue for a while, from what I've heard. So maybe we want to add that as a goal.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up.
Only since our IT director left.
Yeah, I'll get a help desk ticket in for that.
I'm a little concerned about not partnering with the county, but I'm concerned that we're gonna kind of go backwards in the amount of help we've got in the IT department. Well, I guess this is the wrong time for that, but I hope we can maintain these two positions. I guess I'll put it that way.
Any other questions on IT and IT budget or goals? All right, moving on will be the GIS or development budget that is on page 86 of the packet. Yes, Alderman Dolnick.
It must be, I'm sure there's an explanation, but so there's a dramatic increase in salaries and fringes from 2020, 2021, and then to 2022. Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
Which page are you on?
Well, on mine it's 49.
Packet page or?
Well, it's page 90.
So it went from 15,882 in 2021 to 56,724 in 2022.
Page 90 packet.
What are we looking at? Good Lord.
Page 90.
Is it, yeah, I don't see.
It's the allocation.
Yeah,
Geographic info system.
Oh, I see.
summary.
I'm sorry. Got it. Yep.
So the answer is similar to Alderman Kaler before, comparing the 2021 budget line of 26,413 to general fund line of 26,009. This one's heavily allocated to water and sewer because Mark spends a bunch of time working for the utilities. So the actual number is a couple $100 decrease.
So just to clarify, so the salary that gets allocated is 64, and then there's almost 28,000 in other expenses. That's all related to whatever he's working on for them, I assume. So the only salary that's allocated is the 64. You see it?
Correct.
Well, I just wanted to point out that when you give account numbers, they're not on here.
I wasn't giving account numbers, but just trying to get you in the column. So it's, I'm sorry about if I said account number, my bad. It's column 2021 budget.
Yes.
If you look here, and then you look here,
Okay.
that's what the actual salaries are. This gets allocated to different departments. That's
Any other questions on the GIS numbers? All right. Moving on would be police, page 93. Questions or comments? No? Sure. Oh, did I miss one? Sorry. All right, parking authority, any questions or comments on parking authority budget separate from police? Sorry. I'm trying to follow this. No parking authority. John, I thought you were going to have something after you pointed that out. All right, police, budget. Alderman Allen?
Yeah, there, in the office and operating supplies, this is page 13 of the police budget. I'm working from hard copies, so. There's a line item for .40 caliber practice ammunition for handguns. Didn't we just move to 9mm?
Yes, that's a typo. It should be 9mm.
Okay, and do we use shotguns?
Very limited. We have rifles in the squad cars. There is
Do-
some shotguns that are used for our special response team. Very limited
Okay,
usage.
so they don't train on those, they don't need that?
Not for shotguns, no.
Okay, and then,
Do,
We put in the
Chief, do you want a microphone just because people joining us at home, I probably can't hear you, so. In here, we can hear you, but people at home, I think, the microphone.
Yes, we transferred over to 9mm this year, and so we won't be buying any .40 caliber, but we'll need 9mm. It's not going to be much difference in price. We do not use shotguns except for some specialized usage in our special response team. But we will be purchasing, and that was in the capital budget, some new rifles, because our rifles are kind of out of date and we can't get replacement parts for them. So but the ammo for that will be out of operating supplies.
and one last question. The Citizens Academy is going to resume this year?
We hope to start it up in spring.
Is that budgeted in here somewhere? or-
It is. It's in.
I think it was 2,500 in allotment I saw.
Yeah, crime prevention services. We put money, very limited amount in crime prevention, and that's one of the things that gets used for.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Chief. Well, I guess while you're up here, any other questions on police or for the chief while he's at the microphone? Anyone?
Did you have concerns? Oh, it is on. Did you have concerns about using your IT guy? Is that? I mean, I know that's.
I have extreme
that may
concerns
wind up
about
being a budget question.
It is a budget question, because I do have concerns about it, and we are stretched to the limit right now, and we can't go any longer. I'll tell you right now, we shouldn't be waiting to fill those spots. They need to get filled. I've had that discussion with the city administrator, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of bit my tongue back there when they were talking about just looking at it. We need to move forward, and I could tell you some problems that are going to happen if we don't. And I have, in my time here, never added any spots for the IT people that we have. I've moved other positions, which has cost us some of our operational stuff, and we need to look at that. It's just a reality. That's what businesses do all around us. You're adding IT spots. That's what our job is, to a large extent, between computer-aided dispatch and our record management and all of the stuff that goes along with that.
And security becoming more and more of a issue for sure.
The security stuff, that's all been put on our IT, all of the camera stuff, that's all with stuff that's been added, all of the keyless doors and the fobs, and we manage that not just for the police department, for all of City Hall. We also have people that are monitoring cameras. Our IT is very, very short here, and we need to fill those spots, and we need to add spots, and we need to do it soon.
Chief, where that's under your support services?
Yes, and
Is that
that's
the-
just from our spots, and now we take somebody out of the police department to help out. And I'll tell you, I was told it's temporarily, and I have seen no movement to fill those spots. So I'm very frustrated.
Is that the technical services manager
Yes.
assistant?
Yes.
And I'm sure there are
Is,
people just running around trying to fill those spots out there, right, Jay? I mean, that's got to be a difficult person to find. I mean, in your defense, as far as that goes, but that is something we're actively trying to fill, right?
All the positions are in the budget, as I referred to already. I'll come back with a staffing
Okay.
proposal to you
Okay.
soon.
Okay.
But there's
the,
no advertisement out for them right now, and that's very frustrating to me.
is your technical services manager assistant a sworn officer?
No. No.
Is he, okay. Is he part of the dispatch or
No, he...
works for the support services captain?
Yes, so that spot does a lot of support service for dispatch, because our computer-aided dispatch is obviously very vital, and that's a lot of his background, but that's only one of the things that he supports.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Moving on, we are on the fire, page 112. Anyone have questions, comments for that written down? All right. Yeah, Alderman Kaler?
Have we, and again, we'll go back to this study, have we budgeted anything at all, or is that not, we're just gonna wait and see what comes in, or? I guess it's another one that was wait and see, but we really have no just like the compensation plan, we have no contingency plan so I'm guessing none of this stuff will get implemented until 2023, more than likely.
I would agree with that guess. Likely the recommendations, based on the preliminary conversations I've had with the consultant, are pretty meaty and will require lots of study by this group and others before they're implemented. I would suspect that it's going to take, if I say all of 2022, to study those recommendations and make a legitimate implementation plan would be 2023. That'd be an appropriate timeline.
All right, thank you, Jay. Any other questions around fire's budget? If not, we can move on to building inspection, 137. Next up would be...
Megan, hang
I'm
on a
sorry.
second. Go ahead. Just going back to the fire department.
Sure.
We're currently negotiating contract. Have we put the minimum or anything in there for that? Or is that another one where we're just gonna wait and see what happens? I mean, that one, we almost have to budget something, right?
For, what do you mean?
We're currently in negotiations for the fire department, so have we, for their contract, have we put anything in for salaries for that, or have we kept that the same?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's probably a conversation for closed session for this group.
Okay.
There has been discussion about a closed session update being on a future council agenda.
But we aren't budgeting any increase as of now?
So that would be a conversation for closed session. We can have that conversation in advance of the budget being adopted.
Okay.
Chief, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say
Okay.
the step increments are included in the budget, not the overall compensation.
Thanks, Chief.
All right.
And then I had a question for building inspection.
Sure, building inspection, go ahead. Alderman.
Yeah, now we only have 1.5 positions. Is that correct? The inspection superintendent is only half-time, or is that split between two different? Okay.
Split.
So we only have 2 positions, and then there's a goal for 2022, explore contract inspection services to additional municipalities. Is that feasible, given the amount of work going on right now?
That's a fair question. It'd be part of the exploration. So if we explore it and there's a municipality that wants us to engage with them, do we have the existing staff, or would we have to add incremental staff, part-time staff, to be able to pull that off or not? Again, I would just say that's all part of the exploration. We wouldn't jump into something that we couldn't
We did that in the
fulfill.
past, didn't we?
We
Didn't
currently
do some stuff at
contract.
Quascom?
Yep, we still have that contract, and our two inspectors are very, very busy, but they are able to handle the Kewaskum contract and our workload to date here. If we added additional municipalities, that might be a recommendation to add staff accordingly.
That's the remote pilot license. Is that for the drone?
It is for the drone, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions around building inspection?
Actually, I did have one thing. Jay, you're aware that there is a proposal floating around about building inspection. I think in building inspection was involved, or was it just building standards for affordable housing? I had emailed you about the LRB? Is that what? They're not, the state's not talking about capping or screwing around with our fees, are they?
Not that I know of, but I haven't spent much time with those proposed bills at this time. I know Mark had a chance to look at them today. He might be able to respond.
Yeah, I glanced at them earlier. They do not affect the UDC, the Uniform Dwelling Code requirements, or the commercial, the international building codes. What they are more set for is review and approval processes, and for minimum requirements in zoning codes.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Any other questions on building inspections? If not, next would be Public Works, page 145. Does anyone have questions on that? I know I had one. Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I did a question regarding snow and ice control. I see now there is request for contractual services for Kawasaki plowing.
I'll take it if that's okay. Doug was unable to attend tonight. He's attending a conference out of town. That is a new line item for us. It was requested the last couple of budget years, and we did not have the funds available to fulfill that request. It doesn't fulfill all of the cul-de-sacs, is my understanding, but rather a portion thereof. So Doug will be identifying X number of cul-de-sacs and going, assuming, and he shared with me that if this continues to stay in the budget and makes it through November 8th, that on the 9th, he would be putting out a proposal for a private consultant to jump in and do that work. The amount of staff that we have available to move snow has become more and more lean, and this is a way that I know I've attended some of those snow plowing meetings with the multi-departments as well, and this has been discussed by the department team, the utilities and parks and public works guys together, that they talk through this, and wouldn't that be nice if we were able to have a contract again? We used to do this in the past. We took it in-house, and this puts it back, at least in part, on a private consultant.
So this would be just for Kawasaki, it wouldn't be for the downtown. Downtown would still be done by our people.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman
Yeah, I have
Waddell?
a question that I'm not sure how to ask, but is there ever a line item in a budget in any given municipality for painting lines on the roads? Like, and I know that sounds funny, but in Barton, a couple of years ago, Doug was kind enough to put the parking lines on the road and down the middle and the crosswalks and all that. One, it really made it look nicer, and two, a lot of people didn't know they could park on Barton Avenue. And of course, there, as much as we want more businesses up there, we do have some businesses up there, and those businesses were helped by those lines being painted on the road. Now, North Main Street has the same problem. There is parking available on North Main Street from Barton Avenue out, but I don't know that there's a room in the budget or anything indicated that we might be able to get that taken care of. And I've pestered Doug about it once, and we had a few little issues with that, so I don't know if I would be able to get him to do it again for North Main Street, but I think he's got some wiggle room in his budget, and that's why he was able to do it the first time. But I wonder if is that something that we can possibly put into the budget at some point? Maybe not for 2022, but because I asked him, and he basically said that that's not really what we do, or that we don't really do that.
Well,
but then how do crosswalks get
Well, I see in
re-indicated?
here, in street maintenance expenditures, street line painting materials
Okay.
is allocated at $3,000 in this budget on,
Oh, yeah, well, that's not.
I mean, I'm just saying, so they
Yeah.
must have something. that
Okay,
they-
there is a line item for it,
There is
okay.
a line item. Not sure how that's, all right, Chief?
Well, I don't want to, just addressing a little bit of your other question. So there is a budget that DPW does for the painting, but just so you know, not every crosswalk gets painted. That there is a city general policy on all mid-blocks have to be painted, and then the other crosswalks, it's just not practical to paint everyone. We get those questions at the police department. The question about parking stalls is also one, and we don't paint parking stalls throughout the city. And, you know, there is, and actually you're right, that did cause some confusion even when they did it on Barton. Generally downtown and in the business district they will, but it's not painted throughout the city. You know, you go around other strip malls or schools and other places, so it's not just a budget item, it's also, I mean, a practicality as to when they would do it.
Well, it seems like in areas that there are, you know, higher numbers of businesses and more commerce going on, that we could help those businesses out a little bit.
I'm not so sure I understand the point of painting them. This is another discussion.
People don't
Maybe you
know
and I
that
can talk about it.
people don't know that there's parking available there.
They park up and down the street all the time. Since that question came to me, I've gone by North Main Street. I have not seen anybody. It's any time that lot is filled, there's overflow parking on the street.
Well, okay.
You and I can talk on that on another issue.
Yeah, I know, we can, I'm gonna disagree with you on that one, but that's okay.
So parking line question answered. I'm sorry, I saw Alderman Allen. Did you also have a question?
Not about parking
Not-
lines.
Not about, or how about,
Personally, would like to see that number go up.
Jay, is there any potential? Otherwise, do you want a consensus from us? I mean, I'd like to hear, I guess, where the lines are going to be painted, what the, you know what I mean, other than
Well,
what's allocated in the 3,000, what do we have planned with that?
I don't
and
know
then-
what we have planned
and
with
that's-
that, so
yeah.
that would be a question I suppose Doug would probably answer. Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple locations just to have it consistently done, because, you know, it was done on Barton Avenue year before last or whatever, and I think in another couple years, if it would probably need to be done again, you know, or I don't know how, do you know how often that is, Max? How often that?
So are we talking just about the parking
Well, just
lines for now?
in the case of Barton Avenue, I'm sorry, I guess we have to stay specific. In the case of Barton Avenue, it would be everything like they just did.
Okay. In engineering, we have budgeted for painting pavement markings such as center lines and some of the crosswalks, like the chief was saying, the ones that we do paint,
Sure.
stop bars, things like that, but not parking lines like the chief was saying. So that's why I came to ask the questions, are we just talking about those parking lines,
So
the parking spots?
Yeah, okay, so I'd have to come back with specific areas that I'm concerned with and try to get it implemented, I guess, right?
This sounds like an operations kind of conversation, not
Okay,
a budget
okay.
conversation.
Okay,
But-
okay. It was indicated to me that it was a budget issue at some point, so.
Any other public works, Alderman Allen?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. In the area on recycling, it keeps talking about weekly curbside recycling. Jay and I already talked briefly, and it needs to be bi-weekly. Because
Update the language.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you got to keep it difficult enough for us to figure out if we put the right cans out at the right time. There are a number of places in the budget where CDL drug and pre-employment testing are listed for public works. I think those are realistically an admin expense that applies to the entire department, and they should just be rolled into one account somewhere. And then I had a question relative to the rental of the mastic equipment that we do on an ongoing basis. And my question would be, what is the cost to own the piece of equipment so that we're not spending $8,000 to rent it for a week or two?
Alderman Allen did ask me that in advance, and I reached out to Doug. 80 to 85,000 is what that would cost.
Is that something we could look for a used one? Would there be a used one somewhere? Would that be worth looking at also?
I suspect that's possible, yeah.
'Cause it's something that we're now doing, having good luck with. It seems like something we want to take a look at rather than keep renting it at $8,000-$10,000 a pop.
Is that the yearly cost, Jay? 8 to 10,000 a year?
Yeah, that's probably, I don't know the number that we annually spend renting the county's people and equipment, but it is significant.
It's 8,000 and it's either a week or 2 weeks
No
that
doubt about that.
equates to. It's pretty expensive.
Would we have to also then hire additional employees to?
We have to hire their people to sit around while we do the work.
Currently, that's how it works with the machine. I would not say the sit around part, but the county uses, when we use the county's machine, we do get their people that are trained on it. Our employees would need to be trained to use the mastic machine. I wouldn't say that we would need to hire more people, but the mastic machine would have to find its way through the capital improvement plan.
Our guys did it all in my subdivision. It was 3 guys from DPW that did it. There was nobody else there watching, or not that I saw in the week they were by me.
We do pay for the county to provide people, and the times I observed them doing it.
There was nobody in my
The county
subdivision.
people were not actually doing the work. They were just they were babysitting.
I didn't see anybody other than our guys, so I don't know, that's a question for Doug. I didn't see anybody.
I don't want to speak for Doug, but I know that he had looked at various options. So he was renting the machine from the county, and I want to say maybe at some point he was able to find equipment from a private entity, and maybe we were able to use that for a while. Maybe that's why you saw, but usually even renting from the county would be more cost effective for him. So he's always looking at the different options at different times of the year. So he may switch to a different provider if he finds the opportunity. So maybe that's what happened there.
Makes sense.
Are we still in public?
Public Works, yeah, do you have
okay,
more Public
that's-
Works?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a Max thing or a Doug thing, but it's been a point of frustration for me for the last 3.5 years, and I'll try not to get too aggressive in my in my speech, but when the hell are we going to get the Barton Dam and everything above it dealt with? John, help me here.
Yeah, I totally agree with Justice. That is just terrible up there, and we need to take something needs to be done. We need to either put some money somehow, someplace on the side where we can build up, where we can get that river taken care of.
And I've gotten the report to you, and I've gotten the report to you, and I've gotten the report to you, that this guy that just got out of college. He got it all figured out for us. I mean, we have a pretty good idea of what to do, and it really isn't as expensive as originally thought. And I can share that with that report with the rest of you if you want it. But basically, it's we can probably do this. You know, we just need the political will.
Like a dredging?
That's one option discussed in the report, and ultimately probably the best thing to do, yes. And is it temporary? Yes, but temporary in a 50-year span. You know, it's something we'll have to come back and do 25 years from now. But it does involve potentially buying a dredging machine, potentially doing other dredging for other folks, and then selling the machine after it's done. It's not simple, you know, and it's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as we thought.
Is buying the machine the only way? Or
No,
I mean, there's got to be other companies that dredge. Okay.
I'll send you the report.
I mean,
it's more than we can get into right now. What, Max? What?
You already talked about everything. I thought maybe there was a question I was going to try to answer.
Well, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, and I don't know, maybe you're more.
So I talked to, the DNR did the dam inspection this year for us, and I asked them to be on site with them as they're doing the inspection of the structure. We usually do this when it's due every other year, but every so often they do it. They come out and do it themselves. And I did talk to the two DNR employees that were there about that issue with the vegetation in the river. I did ask them about the solution that you had mentioned. I did talk to them about the other solution you had talked about with the funneling. And that funneling, they did not know anything about it.
It was experimental, yes.
Yeah, and so they said they had heard it was done in one place and they were not familiar with it. And the rest of it, most of the time, is what they told us is the solution they use is what Doug is doing currently, going out there kind of on a barge or something and remove what they can. A lot of it is by hand or by doing. It's very time consuming and not very efficient. And so, but you know, we're looking for, I don't know if there's a miracle solution, but we're looking for it. And so we'll keep looking, and then hopefully we can address that. But
I wonder if there's any partnering with some of the lake districts in the town of West Bend. I know they're doing a dredging project near Big Cedar. The Genty Pond is full of some sediment. I think the cost budget there was about $80,000 for the year.
Yeah, one of the numbers thrown around was anywhere from $500,000 to 1.5 for ours. But again, I'll send you this report. I think it can be done for a lot less than that.
Yeah, and does your report include some DNR, anything with the DNR? Because to Max's point, I think they also need to approve some of our,
sure.
when you're doing anything in the water.
It talks about that as well.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I just forwarded it to everybody.
Thank you.
What's that?
I just forwarded it to everybody.
Oh, thank you. So that not getting in the budget anytime soon is what I'm hearing.
There is no money in the 2022 budget for that, no. It's accurate.
At what point do I start the conversation with you or anyone else on potentially getting it in the 2023 budget? I thought I started that conversation for 2022, but it just didn't seem to go anywhere, so. Mayor Jenkins, I brought that up with you. John, I brought that up with you. Jay, I brought that up with you. Max, Doug, I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do, so.
What does you're saying fix the Barton Dam?
Yeah.
Dam is obviously not falling down.
No, the dam's not what I'm asking to fix.
So
it's the issue above the dam.
And the issue above the dam is that it's
highly vegetated. Yeah, it's gonna in another couple of years. It's gonna be a bog. So we either take the dam down, which I don't think there's an appetite for in Barton, anyways, or we fix it.
Justice, would this be more of a capital project?
Yeah, like CIP.
Than on the general fund?
I guess so.
Yeah,
yes, sorry. Thank you. Yes, I guess so. You're right.
Why isn't it a DNR issue?
The DNR wants to take the dam down. So we don't want the DNR getting their opinions in there.
They don't like dams.
Sorry, I didn't say that.
Well, yeah, but there's other impacts. If you take the dam down, what does that do to the watershed above the dam?
Yeah,
What does
and
that do
dam
to
down the
flooding?
downstream. Yeah.
I don't think you can just say, well, we'll just take the dam down.
No, and again, there's no appetite for that in Barton anyways, so
I
very
think
little.
some issues with that mill there. He uses that dam to power his building, isn't that correct?
That would be a serious problem, yes. Yeah. So anyways, I guess 2023 capital projects budget is when we'll have that conversation again.
Alderman Allen?
Yeah, garbage, this is in the Public Works Administration, page 33, whatever that equates to, in the magic world of non-accessible internet.
It's just
garbage,
PDF.
or PDFs, yeah. The garbage collection and refuse collection for festivals is a revenue source, $250. Who pays us? I mean, we have an awful lot of festivals and events, and I guess the question is, who pays us, and what do we charge for that? $250 doesn't seem to be all that substantial an amount for the number of times that we have overflowing garbage cans after Music on Main or after farmer's market and so on.
I'm not aware of any entities paying that fee at this point. And I don't disagree. $250 is a really small number in the revenue budget for Public Works, but if nobody's paying it, then it's probably not that small of a number. I don't mean to be smart about it.
It's probably costing us more than 250. I mean, I guess if that was a bigger number, it probably wouldn't have come to my attention. And then the second one is $100 for grinder revenue. Did Doug have an answer on that?
Yeah, it's when we grind brush for neighboring municipalities. Even if it did, it must be a really small amount.
A single branch.
That's all I had for Public Works.
John?
I think that grinder revenue was maybe a remnant of some years ago when there was some community, I want to say Cedarburg maybe, that we were grinding for.
Yes, we did. When there was a storm that went through and took the trees down in Cedarburg, they requested Public Works to haul. We hauled our grinder over there to grind up all their brush. And then we just charged them for the use of the grinder and the loader.
I had one question on Public Works, Jay. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or, with Doug out. It would be on the page 166 of the packet. Street lights, light and power is allotted at the $775K in the 2021 budget. And then I have the 2021 actual coming in at like $316, $375. I guess I'm just curious, because that's about the 6-month mark. If you multiply that out, that should come into about $632,750, which means there's $137,250 difference there. I'm just curious if that's daylight savings or if there's a reason why the first 6 months of the year has come in so much lower than that halfway.
So we state actual of 630, and in a lot of cases the bills lag, so it's not a full 6 months of billing in this case. I'm
Okay.
confident. Carrie, if I'm...
Okay,
yeah.
so this is not a full 6-month picture exactly because of bills lagging. Okay, thank you.
And you'll find that throughout the budget. There's a few instances like that.
Okay. Anyone else have questions on Public Works? All right. Moving on would be City Engineering, packet page 179. Alderman Allen?
180. Packet page 180, because one more. There's a annual sidewalk contract, square feet and properties. 2021 actual, we invalidated that contract at the last council meeting. And I'm thinking that the 2022 budget now needs to reflect the sum of 2021 actual and 2022 budget.
Max
Yes.
is right behind you.
The answer is that the funding that we have in 2021 will be carried over to 2022 to be spent next year for that amount of work. So we will be doing double the work that was not done in 21 and the work that is budgeted for 22. So that money that we're carrying over is 2021 funding. So I don't know, I would have to turn to the accountants to tell me if it's okay to move that from one column to the other, and then we can do that. But the bottom line is that we will carry that money over.
Well, if we're going to do the work we plan to do in 2022 and the work we plan to do this year that we didn't, then the 2021 actuals should be moved to zero, and 2022 budget should reflect the sum of those two columns.
Can you make that
fine with
edit?
that.
Okay.
I mean, the decision was made just last week, so
Yeah.
we haven't probably updated that document yet. And if it needs to be updated, then we'll definitely move those numbers.
I'll work with Carrie on that change.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Kaler?
I got just a quick one, and this is probably more for public information. It's administer, survey, maintain the records for Pilgrim's Rest Cemetery. How does that fall on the engineering, and what exactly do we have to do there? I'm just curious. I don't recall that one.
It's, I don't remember the exact year, but I think it was in the 80s or 90s where the city was gifted the cemetery. And
Somebody gave that to us?
yes.
Oh, nice.
And then so we had one person in the engineering department designated as the sextant of the cemetery. And that was our city surveyor for a long time. When the department was restructured, that became me for a short time. And then one of the engineering technicians who was a survey technician who now works for the water utility offered to keep helping with this. And so what happens is that when we get requests for a burial, like we just did this past Friday, he comes back and spends a couple hours in engineering and going on site and marking the location for the burial and all that. So now he is the sextant of the cemetery, but it's managed by engineering.
So do we then get reimbursed by the subject that's being buried, or?
So there is a burial fee.
Okay.
And we issue the permit for the burial, and then we mark the area for the funeral home, whoever's doing the digging. And then after they are done, we go back and inspect to make sure that it's properly restored.
Okay. Just curiosity, thanks.
Sure.
Interesting.
Any other questions on the engineering budget? All right. Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Just a note, we did add a tech position, correct?
Yes, the new engineering tech position is in the budget.
Has that been advertised?
It has not been advertised. It would be premature to advertise it before the budget's approved.
Thank you. All right, moving on. If no one has any more questions on engineering, the vehicle maintenance. Alderman Kaler?
Just one question, Jay, with this lease program. I know there was a lot of talk about the savings and maintenance and so on. Where do we see that savings in this budget?
So in all of the respective budgets, you would see a decrease in vehicle maintenance from year over year, so 18, 19, 19 to 20, and then an increase in the lease amount for the respective budgets. So that's really where the actual dollars and cents savings will appear on the annual operating. And then the biggest level of savings is the banked money that banked is relative, non-accountant term, that we sold all of the existing vehicles for to jump into this program. So we started with a net positive when we originally leased the vehicles, and we'll be using that future proceeds to continue to buy new leased vehicles.
So then my second question is, obviously when I go down then to the number of work orders that were created, that number has not changed. We've now leased, what, 50-some vehicles? Or
20.
20-some vehicles. But yet the number of repair orders is unchanged. So I'm wondering, I would think with all the junk we got rid of, that number would have went down.
Yeah, I don't dispute that at all. That number probably should be looked at more closely. I would say not only do we remove some aging vehicles and replace them with new leased vehicles, we also have a new and improved taxi fleet. That the taxi fleet in the past has really cost us. We did estimate less revenue for this budget because of that taxi fleet in particular being newer and requiring less maintenance and thereby generating less revenue. But I'm guessing that goal we just didn't catch. I can talk to Steve Schmaling and Doug about that.
In terms of the maintenance, are we still doing some of the routine maintenance like oil changes? And so we're still, those would still involve some kind of a work order and tracking, correct?
They would. In some cases, though, the leased vehicles, we put so few miles on them that we'll be turning them before we ever change their oil, which sounds a little silly, but it's just true based on the amount of actual miles driven. That's the beauty of the program, is they'll be valuable when we turn them. I'll check on that goal though, or that metric.
Any other questions on the vehicle maintenance section?
Well, it's a lease program now, so it doesn't matter. I was just curious about the money coming out of the individual budget for any given department. If the money's when the vehicle's sold, does that go back into that department or just back into general fund?
It depends if it's a special purpose or enterprise department or if it's a general fund department. If it's a general fund department, like police and fire, it would go back into the general fund. If it's special purpose,
some cases it does.
Like utility, it would stay with utility.
Okay.
Any other questions on vehicle maintenance? If not, we can move on to the airport budget, 199 in the packet. Anyone have questions, comments, or concerns on airport? If not, we can move on to the culture and rec section, page 207. Alderman Kaler?
I guess Jay asked this question last meeting regarding the $400,000 from the sale of the Mutual Mall. Is this where we discuss if some of that can be allocated to PRF for the beach house project, or where does that discussion take place?
It's not an annual operating conversation. It's up to the finance chair whether she allows the conversation or not. I'm fine with responding to any question that you might ask, but it's really a capital.
Right, which is why I asked it last week. So when will that come up?
I'm fine with whatever.
Go right ahead.
I don't disagree. I
don't know when that conversation takes place. I asked about it last meeting, but I would like to see some of those proceeds into the PRF budget for the beach house project.
And right now, is it just in the general fund?
It's earmarked for capital within our fund balance. So it's not in the general fund per se. It's a protected fund that won't get spent on anything that's operating, and it won't get spent until the council directs the monies somewhere. I did have a conversation with Mike Jensch after the last council meeting, and we talked through the possibility of stepping up the next, we did and had authorized at the last meeting the project and project 1, and this would be 1A. The next one up would be 1A. We had a quick conversation about the possibility of adding that and bringing that back to council.
So
So
we can
I
do-
would say it's in the works. Your comments did not go unnoticed.
Right. I just don't know when it comes up in the budget that we, if we can allocate some of that money. So I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost.
That's fine. And I know I shared this last meeting as well, but we're actively fundraising and having conversations with some.
Right, and I get that, but I still think whether we're short or not, that some of those proceeds should go to PRF, whether it's for the beach house project or future parts of the beach house project. I still believe some of that money should be allocated to that department, being
The beach,
their building that's gone.
the beach house specifically, or just to the department, like to whatever they are
I would like
needing?
to see it earmarked for the beach house specifically. I mean, there's other options. There's what, 3 or 4 more alternates, Mike, that we're going to hopefully do in the future. So if this doesn't go to phase 1 or 1A, could go to phase 2 or phase 3 or whatever.
And didn't a lot of those programs go into the basement of the library?
Yep.
Yeah. And did we use any of the mutual mall funds to
No.
offset the library expenses?
No,
We did not.
that's why I'm saying.
Yeah,
some of
that would
this-
have been really the appropriate
See,
spot for it.
that would
but
have
yeah.
been the natural.
Agreed,
Because,
but
Yeah.
you know,
that didn't
we
happen,
used
so-
mutual mall because we could, we had the
Right.
space.
That's why I'm asking the question, so.
Well, and we're fortunate due to our very generous community that the Mutual Mall building came down and the library rec center was built out with donations without having to have that conversation at that time, keeping our powder dry for this conversation. So I don't think there's opposition to the ask. We just need to
Right.
figure out which
Right.
phase, whether
And
it's
there's more
1A.
there. I know you had a couple other projects you had talked about you'd like to use some of those proceeds from. So let's get that conversation on the agenda and let's figure out what we do with it.
I agree.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks.
Yes, Alderman Dolnick.
I've noticed that a lot of the budgets, maybe all of them, the cost for fuel and heating is being kept the same. Now, there are some reports that are suggesting that the cost of natural gas could double this heating season. Are we going to not anticipate that and just, if we fall short, cover it from hopefully unexpended budget, or what?
Hard to anticipate exactly what the budget for that, though.
Well, yeah, and I'm not suggesting they be doubled, but they're not going up at all.
Yeah.
So we were operating under Intel when the first budget instructions came out to department heads, which is maybe a little different than what we're hearing now. I think the honest answer is yes, we would just be funding it with monies that are left over within the existing budget if in fact those projections that we're hearing now become true.
Can we increase it at all now or no? Rather not.
Well, every
Okay.
time you increase something, you can either cut something else, or
Okay.
if you have a suggestion on where to cut to increase, we
Well,
can
there's
have it.
undesignated fund balance where we might get that from anyways.
Well, that's where it would come from if we don't do anything. It would simply be an
I guess it's the same
expenditure that
thing,
we
yeah,
hadn't
yeah.
budgeted for, and that's where it would need to come.
Ends up the same, yeah. Okay.
But I guess, you know, whose crystal ball is right? I mean, you know, do we have any realistic intelligence that we're gonna, you know, as We Energies, you know, whispered in our ear and said, we expect to charge you twice as much this winter?
There was a news story that suggested that our bills are going to be $25 more this winter. So there is an actual number out there, but
Yeah, but that
that's not really a
equates to way,
percentage. Yeah.
that equates to way less, you know, than doubling.
Sure, but that is a number that we could use. You know.
Well, yeah, if we could come up with a percentage, I mean, it would certainly be, we could look at what the effect of that is on the budget.
All right. Do you need any calculation from us, or you feel?
For me, that would be 10% of my own budget, but that's probably a whole different.
So I mean, you know, which of these are natural gas costs? I mean, the fuel costs are pretty simple because they talk about X gallons. You know, realistically, gasoline goes up and it goes down, but it stays pretty much about where it is. It's more consistent. Natural gas, it's it's going to be whatever We Energies decides it's going to be. And, you know, if you think it's going to be 10% higher, then what would be the effect and which departments would get hit? I mean, who's using natural gas? I would guess Loch Lorraine, some of the parks, Public Works.
We can take a look at it again, the
Just,
line items.
can we advise the departments that that could potentially be an issue if they want to nudge their numbers, or?
We'll take a look at it.
Okay. Any other questions for Culture and Rec? Brett?
I notice on page 214, there's an amount set aside for a flag display contract. Is that the street flags that are along the streets, or is there some other? Okay. And is that contract then through the American Legion?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where that 4,000 would go to?
That's been in there for ever.
Ever. Got it. Thanks.
Since 1776.
I think that costs $4,000.
Any other Culture and Rec questions while we have Mike up here? Thank you, Mike.
Does that extend up into Barton? Is that?
I don't believe so.
Okay, because we have flags up there too. I was wondering if that was part of that contract.
I can double check and let you know to confirm. I'm not exactly up to speed on.
That's okay. Does it? Yeah? Yeah? Okay.
Any other Culture and Rec budget questions? All right, if not, we can move on to Economic Development Budget, page 230. Anything for that? If not, we can move on to page 236. That would be Department of Development overall. Development. All right. If not, oh, sorry.
There was a goal, and I think I'm a step ahead of me. Did I miss it? Hang on a second. That was in administration, communications, and economic development. There's a goal in here to assist in the implementation of the Barton Business Improvement District. I think you can probably take that one out.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. We can delete that.
Yeah, I was just looking for it on here.
Noted.
Unfortunate situation there.
Any other questions or concerns with the Department of Development budget?
So we're dropping the assist in implementation of the Barton Business Improvement District.
It's going to be a year or two before we try to bring that up again. So it can be taken out of next year's budget. The Planning Commission shut it down, so it's not happening. Yeah.
Well, so we're going to get a recommendation to shoot it down, or it's just not going forward?
It's not even. The council's not even going to see it. Yeah.
It's not moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on Department of Development?
Is there? We've got a facade improvement grant that hasn't been funded for a couple years. Can we maybe put it in the goals to try to get funding back in there, or is that inappropriate?
So there's, to my knowledge, never been city dollars that have funded the facade improvement.
Right, but we're talking about goals for the department. I mean, isn't that something that we might lobby for, or not really?
So again, historically, there's never been city funds that have funded the facade improvement
Okay,
program
never
for the
mind.
downtown. There has been donated funds that have been utilized and spent by the,
I think what Jess is saying, can we have a goal for them to fund it? Whether it be city dollars or some other dollars.
Sure,
fund it.
yeah, who's ever
grants.
dollars, yeah. I know this is the budget, but we are talking about goals for the department, so.
the business improvement district itself could choose to fund their monies on a facade program. That would be up to the bid for 2022, and you'll see that, well, Jess is up there.
The
You'll see
bid
that soon.
is recommending putting that program together next year, 2022.
Well, the historic Barton district is part of that.
It's not.
No.
That is part of the downtown bid.
So the business
The
improvement.
facade improvement grant extends up into Barton.
Correct. When we did have a facade improvement grant with monies that were funded from private sources, that extension was in the downtown West Bend area and Barton. And there were some grants that were issued to the Barton area. The business district that's in place, the only one that's in place right now is downtown West Bend, not the Barton one. And they would not spend those monies in the Barton area. They have to be spent in the existing geography.
You are missing my point. That's okay. We'll move on.
I think what Justice is asking is, can the Economic Development Department or some other department take on creating a facade improvement grant more generally across the city? I don't know what that looks like at this point. I know how the bid is approaching.
Not to fund it with city dollars necessarily, but just to work with
To watch.
folks like myself to get it funded, from whomever.
Yep, so that we have talked about that as far as writing for a grant to fund the facade improvement program in the past, absolutely. We've not been successful with anything to date, but that doesn't mean that money in the future couldn't come there.
It could be a goal.
It could be a goal.
Okay. Can we put it in there?
If the council wants to see it as a goal, that's perfectly fine with me. It might have been in last year's.
On page 230, there is a goal, secure funds for the use of the facade improvement grant.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome.
Was it in there last year too?
All of us are not working from.
Sorry?
I stand corrected. Sorry, Jess.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
So the bid is recommending funds that they have that will be in 2022's operating plan, but for economic development, that would, be a goal to secure either grant funds, donations, whatever that might be to get that program going again.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I believe we've had that goal in the past. and haven't
I
been
know. That's
successful.
why I just didn't see it. My fault.
Get more money. I like that goal.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Department of Development? If not, next up would be Sewer and Utilities, page 244 of the packet. Anyone have questions, comments, goals? If not, we can move on to Water Utility, 279. Any questions on that? No? All right. Then we can move on. I think that covers all the non-major special revenue funds is the next section. So we can move on to the other outside departments. Anything remaining on the main departments? All right. If not, then let's move on to taxi. After taxi, we have library.
Yeah, I had a question on library, and it had to do with, previously we showed the county as having an amount in, for instance, salaries and all the various categories. This year, the city has the total amount listed and nothing for the county. And how does that work? Do we expect to get the same, or?
Our library director is here, so hopefully he can.
From the county.
That was a goal of Steve's coming in as the new library director, to clean up our budget to only show one expenditure. So I'll let him explain how he made that happen.
Yeah, well, so the money coming from the county still comes in. There are some slight variations on the number in the budget, but we'll cover that within our budget. The total money, total revenue is then listed as the city, so that we no longer have to divide our expenses between two different account numbers. Cleans it up, makes it simpler to understand for both the library board and anybody looking at the budget. So I'm a big believer in transparency. The money that we spend, it doesn't come from the county, it comes from the city. All the money that we put out in buying books and paying salaries comes from the city. And we're reimbursed by the county for those expenses from year to year.
If you look on 346, it kind of gives a summary of the countywide library, the distribution and what it's based on. Is that correct, Steve? That's where it kind of breaks it down. It says countywide library. Our projected circulation of 43.5% is 598,715. And then 25,000 for being the resource library for the county.
Yeah, that's essentially the idea. It's all coming in, but there are some changes. Our circulation, we're still waiting to get a new agreement with the county formed. It looks like our circulation reimbursement will be down a little bit. Our resource library money will be up a little bit, so it's kind of up in the air right now, but and there is a bit of a gap there that we didn't account for, but we'll take care of that within our budget. Act 420 also is factored into that. There's a line that says Act 420 payment, so that's another part of the county revenue.
Doesn't seem like there should be libraries.
The county?
No, never mind.
All right, any other questions on library expenditures, budget goals? Will we have him here? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We have the communication department, 348, page 348 of the packet.
How come their budget is so much prettier than everybody else's?
It is.
I'm not touching that. It looks very nice.
Yeah.
Pretty. Easy to understand.
Next year we want more pictures. This is a little redundant.
Next year she has to do that for everybody.
Everybody give us pictures and clip arts and all these fun little, lots of information. We like it.
Actually, I did have one question. Somewhere in here I found a excursion repair or something for do you have a vehicle that's not?
We used to.
Yeah, we no longer have an excursion. Now through the lease program, we have a Suburban that is shared with other departments as well, but we cover the cost of that in primary use.
It doesn't sound like an upgrade.
So if you found excursion in this budget, we'll scrub it.
It's in there somewhere.
All right.
It is, yeah.
It was in there before. Yeah, I see it. There's some edits
under
in there
maintenance,
that we had made. Yeah. Page 353.
Isn't this excursionation?
Thank you. Thank you, Jess.
Found it.
Any other communications? Otherwise, we can move on to recreation, page 360. Now we kind of made some comments about Mutual Mall and stuff already, so any other? Oh, I missed one? I'm sorry. Economic development, is there, anybody have that? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to follow along in my 372 pages and not miss a department.
Isn't that where I was ragging about the facade improvement grant? That's where I meant to be.
Where was that?
What page, Jed, or the packet is different? Okay.
It's right after communication.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
Oh, right after communications.
Nothing for economic development? Okay, communications, so we are rec. Anyone have anything for rec? All right, if not, I think the last is going to be tourism.
And this is what we acted on in council Monday. Or last Monday.
Oh, the tourism.
Yes. This was all part of the supporting information for the contract with cable TV, with the Tourism Commission.
So no questions? All right. Well, with that, I think we have gone through the 372 pages of this. Does anyone have any other questions or concerns that they want to comments on the budget? I'm sorry, Mayor Jenkins, go ahead.
Thank you for recognizing me. I just wanted to thank department heads, staff, and our city administrator. It's well known that last year, my first budget process wasn't quite as to my liking, but this year I'm feeling very confident and positive with the direction of our city, the mill rate that is getting proposed, and everything that's within this book. So I just wanted to thank everybody, and I appreciate your support. Thanks.
And on that note, Chris, if you don't mind me jumping in, when I first got in here 4 years ago or whatever, we didn't have an opportunity to do this, and we just took the way it felt, anyways. And it may have been different, but the way it felt was that we didn't really have an opportunity to have comment or question on the budget before it came time to vote on it. So this just not an interactive situation, anyways, like this. So I appreciate it, and again, I appreciate all the hard work you guys do.
Yeah, thank you to all the department heads for being willing to come in and answer some of our questions and let us review, what's in there. So
10 years ago, this was really painful. There was 3 or 4 2 or 3 hour meetings. It was.
That might be a little more.
Yeah, this is much more simplified, but yet gives us all the detail and information we need. So again, I appreciate everybody's input, and thanks to all the staff and all your department heads for their work.
All right, and if there's nothing else with that, I will adjourn. Thank you.